nominal landing and recovery
Kazakhstan
operation
itself.
for
The NASA Gulfstream jet is awaiting a final approval to take off from Karaganda to head to Kazakhstan, also dependent on suitable runway conditions in Kazakhstan. There is some snow falling at the landing site, mostly a wet snow, not much accumulation reported. The visibility is acceptable. Everything appears to be proceeding on track for an on-time and nominal landing and recovery operation for Akaba, Vandehei, and Mazurkin.
The maneuver will start in 1 minute. Thank you. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative. The maneuver will start in 1 minute. And right now you can. And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mark. Affirmative.
6.5 minutes until the Deorbit burn is in readiness.
And then I'll have to press this. Thank you. Thank you.
6.5 minutes until the Deorbit burn is in readiness. 6.5 minutes until the Deorbit burn is in readiness. 6.5 minutes until the
The following during the re-entry. Okay, so what is the current value? It is 185. Tighten the straps so that you are secure. You're safely strapped during the landing. And make sure that the ODF is secured properly for the landing. Yes, copy. All right, copy, thank you. Inaudible is not eliminated anymore, and the value is 185, that is correct. Okay, Mark, O2, light. Okay, so what is the current value? Is okay, it is 185. It's closed. Yes, it's closed. Thank you.
Less than 3.5 minutes away from the deorbit burn, the Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov have instructed Mazurkin to provide a running narrative of the progress of the deorbit burn in terms of chamber pressure and fuel consumption for the 4-minute, 39-second duration of that engine firing that will slow the Soyuz down, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its high-speed entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay. Packard is closed. Yes. It's closed. Thank you.
Less than 3.5 minutes away from the deorbit burn, the Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov have instructed Mazurkin to provide a running narrative journey of the progress of the deorbit burn in terms of chamber pressure and fuel consumption for the 4-minute, 39-second duration of that engine firing that will slow the Soyuz down, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its high-speed entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. Mazurkin, Van de Haye, and Akaba wrapping up 168 days in space, 2,688 orbits of the Earth, and a journey of 71.1 million statute miles.
2 minutes till the ignition. Yes, we confirm the same. 2 minutes. And you can.
Coming up on 1.5 minutes until the deorbit burn, the Soyuz and the International Space Station now flying over the South Atlantic just to the east of the Falkland Islands, about to begin a southwest to northeasterly swing that will carry the two craft across the west coast of Africa a short time from now.
Delivery has been sent.
Две минуты до включения.
2 minutes till the ignition. Yes, we confirm the same. 2 minutes. And you can.
Coming up on 1.5 minutes until the deorbit burn.
Inside a minute
The
until
Soyuz
the
and the International
initiation of the
Space
deorbit
Station now
burn.
flying over the South Atlantic,
It's
just to the
confirmed.
east of the
Combined
Falkland
gas is
Islands.
also confirmed.
About to begin a southwest to northeasterly swing that will carry the two craft
And we are expecting
across the west
SKD
coast of Africa a short time from now.
Yes, it's open. Thank you. Has been sent.
The burn is enabled, standing by for the initiation of the ignition of the main engines.
1 minute still. Thruster firing.
Inside a minute until the initiation of the deorbit burn.
7 is confirmed. Combined gas is also confirmed. Visual attitude cannot be controlled anymore. And we are expecting SKD. And we're opening. Yes, it's open. Thank you.
The burn is enabled, standing by for the initiation of the ignition of the main engines. And the deorbit burn is underway, right on time, with the Soyuz flying over the South Atlantic, a 4-minute, 39-second retrograde
1
firing.
minute till, thruster firing. 046, and the burn value is 7.9. Copy. Combined gas is still confirmed. Visual attitude cannot be controlled anymore. 5 seconds, and the burn
we
value
expect
is
pressures to fire.
14.6, and we're going to page 52.
SKD
SKD is on. It is illuminated. Copy mark. Thank you.
And the deorbit burn is underway, right on time, with the Soyuz flying over the
And,
South Atlantic, a 4-minute,
pressure,
39-second
thank you very much,
retrograde
Mark.
firing.
14.27, 046, and the burn value is 7.9. Copy. 46, and the burn is 29 meters. Copy, that's great. 30 seconds, 046. 1 minute, and the burn value is 14.6, 35, and we're going to page 52. The parameters are nominal. Correction, page 53. Copy. Copy mark, thank you. But the prop pressure is 1190, and the prop pressure, thank you very much, Mark, is 1427, consumption 96 kilograms. 1 minute, 046, inaudible. And the burn is 45 seconds, 046, 48 meters. Copy, that's great. Parameters are nominal. 1 minute, 15 seconds, 046, 35 meters. The parameters are nominal. 046, copy. 128 kilograms of the prop pressure 57 meters. 1190. The parameters are nominal.
Halfway through the deorbit burn, everything looking good on board the Soyuz MS-06.
The burn in 64 meters. Inaudible. 1 minute, 45 seconds, 046, 48 meters. 230, 047. Parameters are nominal. 70 meters. Copy. We are approaching the first stage. 2 minutes, 046, 245, 128 kilograms of used prop. The burn is 76 meters. 57 meters. Parameters are nominal. Copy. The parameters are nominal.
Halfway through the deorbit burn, everything looking good on board the Soyuz MS-06.
The burn 164 meters. 93 kilograms of prop has been used. Parameters are nominal. 047, the burn is 84 meters. 230, 047, 70 meters. 047, 91 meters. We are approaching the first stage. Parameters are nominal. 245, 047. The burn is 76 meters. 330. Parameters are nominal. Copy. 226 kilograms of prop has been used. 048, 99 meters, and 100 properties and 93 kilograms of prop has been used. 45, 047. The burn is 105 84 meters. The parameters are nominal.
Nearing the end of the deorbit burn, so far so good. This should result in a
91
reduction in
meters.
velocity by about 128 meters per second for the Soyuz MS-06 and its 3 occupants.
Spacecraft has been used 048, 113, 330 meters. Parameters are nominal. 226 kilograms of 415 drop has been used. 048, 99 meters and parameters are nominal. Parameters are nominal. Copy 345, 048, 105 meters. The burn is 125.
Nearing the end of the deorbit burn. So far, so good. This should result in a reduction in velocity by about 128 meters per second for the Soyuz MS-06 and its 3 occupants. And the deorbit burn is now complete, having achieved the necessary deceleration of the Soyuz velocity. Landing scheduled 47.5 minutes from now.
4:15. Mark, can you please check the burn is in 119.048. Parameters are nominal, and we're preparing for SKD. 753, and the BO pressure is decreasing. Copy. The burn is 125, 126. SKD is off. The thermal sensors are connected. Inaudible. Copy.
And the deorbit burn is now complete, and having achieved the necessary deceleration of the Soyuz velocity, the orbital module is landing scheduled 47.5 minutes from now. Separation, the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz, that is coming up just before 8:06 p.m. Central Time this evening.
At 753, and the BO pressure is decreasing. Copy. I can hardly hear you, but I will continue reporting. Okay, Alexander, I agree with that plan. Inaudible. We have you loud and clear.
And right on schedule, the upper section of the 3-section Soyuz spacecraft, the orbital module, is being depressurized in preparation for module separation, the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz, that is coming up just before 8:06 p.m. Central Time this evening.
Copy, Alexander. Everything is correct. The noise is really loud, but please keep reporting. I can hardly hear you, but I will continue reporting. Okay, Alexander, I agree with that plan.
In about 12 minutes or so, the Soyuz vehicle will be about 93 miles away, or 150 kilometers away from the International Space Station. This is at the point where VHF voice communications is expected to be at best ratty and may be unavailable for a period of time due to the distance between the antennas on the Soyuz vehicle and those that receive VHF communications on the International Space Station. Once the Soyuz approaches its landing site, voice communication and data telemetry from the Soyuz will be available through an Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft. In about 12 minutes or so, going to be airborne in a racetrack Soyuz vehicle will be about 93 miles away, or 150 kilometers away from the International Space Station. This is at the point where VHF voice communications is expected to be at best ratty and may be unavailable for a period of time due to the distance between the antennas on the Soyuz vehicle and those that receive VHF communications on the International Space Station. So once the Soyuz approaches its landing site, voice communication and data telemetry from the Soyuz will be available through an Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft that is going to be airborne in a racetrack pattern around the landing site to act as a flying command and control center, relaying that information back to the Russian Mission Control Center that you see in this view from a balcony camera in Korolyov outside of Moscow, to slip out of low Earth orbit for its entry into the Earth's atmosphere. The key times that you should be aware of: The module separation is the next major milestone. So at 8:05 and
it is typical for voice communications to be lost for a period of time with the crew returning in a Soyuz vehicle
Central Time,
just based on the geometry between the communications antennas on the Soyuz and the International Space Station.
at an altitude of about
The two vehicles are currently flying over the South Atlantic, approaching the west coast of Africa.
The first tug of
Soyuz
gravity
has completed its deorbit burn and is now
September 13th
beginning to slip out of
they will
low
move
Earth
into
orbit
the plasma
for its
regime.
entry into the Earth's atmosphere.
Scheduled
the key
at
10
times
p.m.
that you
Central
should be
Time
aware of.
For about
the
5
module
minutes,
separation is the next
and,
major
once they
milestone.
exit that
Plasma
at 8:05 and 51 seconds p.m. Central Time, followed about 3 minutes later
on their bodies
at 8:08 and 41 seconds Central Time by entry interface, the point at which the Soyuz will
open chutes,
literally enter the Earth's
Soyuz,
atmosphere at an altitude of about 326,000 feet. The crew in the Soyuz will begin to feel the first tug of gravity on their bodies since they were launched back on September 13th last year.
On the Soyuz
they will move into the plasma regime. Their entry into plasma is scheduled at 8:10 p.m. Central Time for about 5 minutes.
The main
and once they exit that plasma, they will experience their maximum buildup of G loads, gravity loads on their bodies of about 4 to 5 Gs at an altitude of some 20 miles above the Earth.
At a canted angle of
the
some
command to
30
open
to
chutes
excess heat
on the
from
Soyuz
re-entry
is scheduled to be initiated at 8:17 p.m. Central Time. 2 pilot parachutes will first be deployed, the second of which will extract the drogue chute on the Soyuz vehicle. The drogue chute is then released, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. The main parachute will follow in sequence, covering an area of some 1,000 meters. It slows the Soyuz down to a descent rate of just over 7 meters per second. Its harnesses first allowing the Soyuz to descend at a canted angle of some 30 degrees to expel excess heat from re-entry. Then it shifts the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent. The soft landing engines will fire just a few seconds before touchdown.
0459. Joe, how are you? Great. That's good. Audible.
Айдер, я получаю вас.
Да, не позднее это надо. Ну вот 0459 закроем.
0459. Joe, how are you? Great.
Альтаир, 15 минут до разделения.
That's good. The separation will take place in 15 minutes. Georgi, I can hardly hear you. 15 minutes till the separation. Copy, Georgi, thank you.
And with voice communications having been temporarily restored between the Soyuz and the Russian Mission Control Center, reminding them that module separation is scheduled now in about 14 minutes if everything goes as planned. That module separation will occur at an altitude of 140 kilometers or just under 87 miles above the Earth.
Will take place in 15
Everything
minutes.
continuing to go smoothly. Touchdown less than
Georgi,
40 minutes from now.
I can hardly hear you. 15 minutes till the separation. Copy, Georgi, thank you.
And with voice communications having been temporarily restored between the Soyuz and the Russian Mission Control Center, reminding them that module separation is scheduled now in about 14 minutes if everything goes as planned.
Airborne heading to
that module separation will occur at an altitude of 140 kilometers or just under 87 miles above the Earth. Everything continuing to go smoothly. Touchdown less than 40 minutes from touches down. The most critical recovery helicopters will touch down in sequence right behind the Soyuz vehicle, including the teams that will have the inflatable medical tent, if it is to be used tonight at the landing site or Wednesday morning, as the case may be locally in Kazakhstan. The Russian search and recovery forces and other a series of Russian Mi-8 helicopters are airborne heading to the landing site. They will line up and queue up basically in a racetrack pattern around the landing zone in chairs nearby, awaiting the arrival of the Soyuz vehicle. Once it touches down, the most critical recovery helicopters will touch down in sequence right behind the Soyuz vehicle, including should it be used tonight, the teams that will have the inflatable medical tent, if it is to be used tonight at the landing site helicopters or Wednesday morning, as the case may be locally. In this case, it appears Kazakhstan, with just that will be followed in succession by other critical RSC Energia and medical support personnel who will be working to extract the crew from the Soyuz spacecraft and place them in chairs nearby their vehicle for a short period of reorientation to Earth's gravity, an opportunity to get their equilibrium back before they're either brought Kazakhstan to the landing site. It is not exactly at the touchdown point where the Soyuz is expected to land, but it's close. And as soon as the Soyuz has in fact landed, this all-terrain vehicle and other support vehicles will make their way to the spacecraft for the expedited extraction of the crew. The temperature at the landing site is about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. We're inside 35 minutes until touchdown. Everything is continuing to go by the timeline. We're about 9 minutes away from the computer-commanded pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz spacecraft. Again, this is a view from an all-terrain vehicle at the landing site, some 90 miles to the southeast of the town of Kazakhstan. You can see the dusting of snow on the terrain there. The temperature is some 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which is fairly mild for this time of the year in south-central Kazakhstan. At the landing site, the search and recovery forces have now refined what they believe will be the landing coordinates for the Soyuz MS-06. The current coordinates 47.19 north latitude, 69.34 east longitude. That would be a bullseye touchdown for the Soyuz if it materializes. Landing schedule 31 minutes from now. center seat of the descent module of the Soyuz, flanked on his left by Mark Vande Hei, wrapping up his first mission in space, and to Mazurkin's right, Joe Acaba, completing his third flight into space and second long-duration mission on the International Space Station.
Altair, Moscow, how do you copy? Altair, if you copy us, could you please reply?
Countdown clocks here in Mission Control ticking backward toward the anticipated landing of the Soyuz MS-06 some 27 minutes from now. We are standing by for the next major milestone, which will be module separation.
Call us if you can hear us. This separation will happen in 1 minute and a half, 90 seconds. Georgi, the com is intermittent, so the separation program is activated. We are standing by for Esgarazar, so uncaged. And the time is, the separation time is 05:05:50.
And once again, voice communications with the crew restored. Standing by for module separation.
We copied. We are standing by for the separation.
And we have confirmation of module separation right on time.
Confirm the separation, if you can hear us.
The confirmation of module separation occurring at an altitude of 87 miles above the Earth. The Soyuz MS-06 descending by the book. The next activity of note will be entry interface, the Soyuz entering the first traces of Earth's atmosphere. That coming up in less than 3 minutes at an altitude of 326,000 feet or 62 miles above the Earth. The first pull of Earth's gravity against Mazurkin, Acaba, and Vande Hei in 168 days. Everything throughout the course of the day has gone by the timeline. The crew members saying farewell to one another aboard the International Space Station and closing the hatch on the Soyuz vehicle just before 2 p.m. Central Time. Undocking occurred some 3 hours later at 5:08 p.m. Central, 6:08 p.m. Eastern Time, as the International Space Station and the Soyuz MS-06 spacecraft undocked over southeast Mongolia. Left on board the 3-person crew of Anton Shkaplerov, the new Soyuz, or the new International Space Station commander, and his 2 crewmates, NASA's Scott Tingle and Norishige Kanai of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. They will be a 3-person crew for the next 3 weeks until the launch on March 21st and the docking 2 days later of Oleg Artemyev and NASA astronauts Drew Feustel and Ricky Arnold. And there's video once again from the landing site, 90 miles to the southeast of Zhezkazgan. Solid overcast at the landing site. Temperatures about 30 degrees Fahrenheit as the first all-terrain vehicles queue up, ready to move into position near the spacecraft once it touches down.
Удачного спуска, Альтаир.
Altair, we wish you successful landing.
And a good view of some of the all-terrain vehicles that set out from Zhezkazgan about 36 hours ago. They are not at the landing site specifically. They're nearby, but it won't take very long for them to move towards the Soyuz spacecraft once it has touched down. Landing scheduled 22 minutes from now.
Unintelligible noise.
The Soyuz spacecraft has not only entered the Earth's atmosphere, but now is in the plasma regime for about the next 5 minutes. This is where temperatures around the spacecraft will build up to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, ablated by the heat shield as the descent module travels in that direction with the heat shield pointed in the direction of travel. Once the Soyuz emerges from this plasma regime in about 3 minutes or so, the crew will feel its maximum G load building up on their bodies, 4 to 5 Gs, at an altitude of some 21 miles above the Earth. Touchdown now less than 19 minutes away.
Altair, it is Moscow. Altair, MCC Moscow, how do you copy?
This is Mission Control Houston, some 16.5 minutes away from the landing of Mazurka, Akaba, and Vandahai in Kazakhstan. The search and recovery helicopters are nearing the landing zone.
We can hear you. So what is the entry offset value? The 10 to the right. Altair, how do you copy? I copy loud and clear. The integral is 17, the offset. Inaudible. 0, 7, 10, 16, integral 16 plus. How are you feeling, guys? Oh, better than anyone. Pressure. 756 millimeters, 756. Inaudible. So the integral is 14 plus 209. Copy.
You're hearing that familiar beeping tone from a radio beacon on the Soyuz spacecraft that is providing position information to the search and recovery forces at the landing site in Kazakhstan, with touchdown expected just 15 minutes from now. We should be in position now where the Soyuz would have almost consistent communications from Alexander Mazurkin, the Soyuz commander, with the Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft relaying data, telemetry, and altitude position through the Soyuz altimeter to the Russian flight controllers there in Korolyov. We should be moments away from the command to open up the parachutes on the Soyuz. We'll be standing by for chute confirmation shortly. This command expected at an altitude of 10.5 kilometers or 6.5 miles above the Earth. Less than 12.5 minutes until the anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz MS-06. We're still standing by for confirmation of chute deploy, which should have occurred just a couple of minutes ago. And search and recovery helicopters in the vicinity of the landing zone have now established visual contact with the Soyuz MS-06. Parachutes are out. Everything continuing to proceed normally towards touchdown 11.5 minutes from now. Once again, the Rosaviatsa Russian search and recovery forces in the vicinity of the landing zone, especially the airborne Russian Mi-8 helicopters, have established a visual contact with the Soyuz MS-06. Its parachute has been deployed as it continues to descend toward its landing site some 90 miles to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan. 9 minutes until touchdown, everything continuing to proceed per the schedule. The Soyuz descending under its large main parachute towards a position some 90 miles to the southeast of the remote town of Kazakhstan in south-central Kazakhstan. Search and recovery forces, all-terrain vehicles are all positioned to begin the recovery of the crew a short time after touchdown. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at a view from a balcony camera overlooking the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. As we are just 7 minutes away from the anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz MS-06 descending under its parachute towards its landing zone to the southeast of the town of Kazakhstan. Everything per the entry timeline has gone by the book so far, as we're standing by for the search and recovery forces who are in contact with the crew on board the Soyuz to provide updates for us as we approach landing time. Inside 5 minutes until touchdown. All quiet on the loops at this point. The search and recovery forces are positioning themselves to begin the process of arriving at the capsule following touchdown to begin the extraction of Mazurkin, Akaba, and Vandahai. This is Mission Control Houston. By the clock, we're about 2 minutes away from touchdown. Still awaiting further voice communication from the Russian search and recovery forces, who are in visual contact with the Soyuz spacecraft descending under its main parachute.
Inaudible.
We should be seconds away from the anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz spacecraft. Still waiting for verbal confirmation of that. The all-terrain vehicles near the landing site that provided television a short time ago are likely repositioning themselves closer to the touchdown point to reestablish a video capability for post-landing activities. At the Karaganda Airport, the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft is ready to take off to head to Zhezkazgan, has not yet received approval to do so, to move to Zhezkazgan, so they're standing by for the green light, as is a NASA Gulfstream jet. And there it is, Soyuz MS-06 back on Earth. The official touchdown time was 8:31 p.m. Central Time, right on the dot, right on the money, and it landed in an upright position. The large orange and white parachute billowing nearby, but there is your spacecraft with its 3 occupants back on Earth, Alexander Mazurkin, Joe Acaba, and Mark Vande Hei back on terra firma after 168 days in space. Again, the report from the Russian Mission Control Center was that touchdown occurred right on time at 8:31 p.m. Central Time, 8:31 a.m. Wednesday morning at the landing site in Kazakhstan. You see a thick overcast greeting the crew upon its return to Earth. The spacecraft, reportedly from the search and recovery forces, landed in an upright position. What that means is that the crew will emerge from the upper hatch on the Soyuz and clamber down a small ladder to be placed, we presume, in a series of chairs nearby the spacecraft for a short period of time to get their land legs back. You see one of the search and recovery helicopters about to land nearby, but Akaba, Vandehei, and Mazurkin are back on Earth after 168 days and a mission that spans 71.1 million miles. And all-terrain vehicles now moving in position near the spacecraft. We'll be getting a closer view of the Soyuz spacecraft once the satellite link on the all-terrain vehicle moves closer to the capsule itself. And you're looking at one of the search and recovery helicopters landing nearby the Soyuz MS-06. And the report now from the Russian Mission Control Center, from the search and recovery forces, Alexander Mazurkin reporting that the crew is feeling very well. You can see in this live view from an all-terrain vehicle at the landing site in south-central Kazakhstan. Some of the RSC Energia technical personnel are working to remove the lines from the large parachute from the Soyuz descent module. Inside that descent module, Mazurkin, Vandehei, and Akaba are waiting to be extracted one by one. The crew should be extracted shortly following its on-time landing at 8:31 p.m. Central Time, 8:31 a.m. Wednesday morning in Kazakhstan. And now the all-terrain vehicles are repositioned close to the descent module. A great view of the Soyuz MS-06, and you can see that ladder set up alongside of the spacecraft. The crew will be extracted from the top of the Soyuz. Alexander Mazurkin, the commander, who's in the center seat, will be the first out. Once again, a good view of the Soyuz MS-06. We'll get that signal back momentarily. The spacecraft landed upright on time about 10 minutes ago at 8:31 p.m. Central Time, about 90 miles southeast of Zhezkazgan in south-central Kazakhstan. And the RSC Energia personnel are repositioning the ladder on the proper side of the Soyuz vehicle, through which the crew will be extracted a short time from now. Again, there are two hatches from which the crew can be extracted on a Soyuz spacecraft. For a landing in which the spacecraft is pulled over onto its side, there's a side hatch that they extract the crew from. In this case, having landed upright, this will be the more traditional extraction of the crew from the top hatch. And the first crew member that will be removed from the spacecraft will be Alexander Mazurkin. This is Mission Control Houston. It's been about 14 minutes since the landing of the Soyuz MS-06 on the steppe of Kazakhstan. You see members of the NASA team of the search and recovery forces who flew from Kazakhstan by Russian Mi-8 helicopters to the landing site. The Soyuz landed upright, obviously, and the RSC Energia technical personnel are in the process of beginning the extraction of the crew one by one down that ladder. The likelihood is they'll be put in reclining chairs for a few minutes to get their land legs. We'll be standing by for further disposition of where they intend to take the crew, whether it will be inside an inflatable medical tent. We're still waiting for word as to whether or not both a NASA Gulfstream jet and a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft will be dispatched from the staging city of Karaganda to the forward staging point in Kazakhstan to expedite the recovery of the crew. These are members of the Rosaviatsa Search and Recovery Forces coordinating the further and future disposition of the crew once they're extracted from the Soyuz spacecraft. Landing occurred some 17 minutes ago on time at 8:31 p.m. Central Time, 8:31 a.m. Wednesday morning there in Kazakhstan. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're looking at the Soyuz MS-06 spacecraft on the ground as the extraction of the crew members is underway. Part of the search and recovery team, the NASA support team, included NASA Public Affairs Officer Dan Hewitt, who is at the landing site right by the spacecraft. Dan, if you can hear me, tell us what is going on as we watch the action here via the satellite link from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, sure thing, Robin. I got you loud and clear. Sounds like you're already getting videos. As you can see, the capsule's down on the ground, landed upright. We actually got to watch it come down under the chutes quite a bit, and then it disappeared into a cloud layer. There's clouds, I think the last we heard were about 400 meters or so off the ground, but pretty cloudy, but good visibility besides that. Cold temperatures, but not as cold as it's been. But so far, successful landing. You can see the search and recovery forces are up on top of the Soyuz right now. They're going to start pulling the crew out any moment now.
Dan, despite the weather conditions and the uncertainty about movement of planes and so forth, it looked like the helicopters landed in very swift fashion, and of course a Soyuz landing upright only helps to expedite the extraction of the crew, right?
Yeah, we got lucky. We've been dodging weather, it seems, for the past couple of days. Things were looking pretty bleak until yesterday. We actually had quite a bit of rain, turned into freezing rain. So some icy conditions, but luckily the weather moved through a lot faster than was anticipated, and we were able to have a nominal landing today. So it's good to be out here. We're worried we might get stuck in airports and stuff, but all the teams made it out, and pretty soon we'll be seeing these crew members.
Is the inflatable medical tent going to be erected and in play following the extraction of the crew?
The plan is for the tent. I don't see it being set up quite yet, but as you might be able to hear, we still have helicopters landing. A team had come ahead of time on a series of all-terrain vehicles, the ATVs. We actually had some of the NASA team camp out last night with them just in case the helicopters weren't able to make it. But as far as the last plan communicated, the medical tent should be set up here. All 3 crew members are going to be taking part in that field test experiment, and the nominal plan has them doing it right here at the landing zone.
And I don't know if you've heard anything more recent there on the ground, but we're still waiting for a final decision as to whether or not the crew will be flown in helicopters back to Kazakhstan for an expedited return there, or whether they'll go back to Karaganda where the GCTC and NASA planes are.
I expect to find out shortly, but last word, the nominal plan is going to be to have the crew go to Kazakhstan. And it looks like there we go, our first crew member out. Looks like we got Mazurkin coming down the slide first. And so with that, our center seater, our Soyuz commander is out. He's going to get carried over now. They have the stairs set up already, just a few feet away. And next up, our NASA crew members will be coming out shortly.
Dan, appreciate all of the info, and we'll be looking forward to further information here shortly on where the crew is going to go and the inflatable medical tent, and whether or not the field testing that is part of this post-flight medical data collection, whether that will be in play today given the conditions out there.
Yep, and even if they aren't able to do it in the field test always has a backup of doing it back at the airport that we deploy to. So that is still on the table if they aren't able to deploy the medical tent.
And Dan, as you are speaking, we're hearing that both the GCTC plane, the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft, and the NASA Gulfstream jet will be relocating to Kazakhstan from Karaganda. They've just received approval to do that. As we look at Alexander Mazurkin, the Soyuz commander, who has now logged 334 days in space on his 2 long-duration flights. So it appears as if you and the other helicopters will be flying the 30 minutes, the shorter distance, to Kazakhstan along with the crew members for the disposition of their activities before they split up to head back to their respective homes.
Yep, well, copy that. All right, we got a couple more helicopters coming in, and we're going to be pulling these crews out, so I'm going to get back to work here. It was good talking to you as always, and I'll talk to you again soon, Rob.
All right, Dan, have a safe trip home. Dan Hewitt, NASA Public Affairs Officer with the Search and Recovery Forces in Kazakhstan. Joe Acaba, out of the Soyuz spacecraft, having completed his 3rd flight into space and a total of 306 days in space. And as he was for both launch and today's entry and landing, Acaba seated in a chair to the right of Alexander Mazurkin. Mark Vande Hei will be the last out of the spacecraft, and he'll be placed in a chair to the left of Alexander Mazurkin. Again, we've, in the last few minutes, received word from the search and recovery forces that both the NASA Gulfstream jet in Karaganda and the Gagarin cosmonaut training aircraft will be dispatched from Karaganda to the Jez-Kazgan airport to receive the crew, as Vande Hei and Akaba will board that NASA jet in Jez-Kazgan for the trip back to Houston. Mazurkin will board the Gagarin cosmonaut training aircraft for the flight back to his home and his training base in Star City, Russia. And there is Mark Vande Hei, all three crew members now out of the spacecraft.
Joe, welcome back.
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, views of Joe Akaba, Mark Vande Hei, Alexander Mazurkin at the landing site, being attended to by their flight surgeons and NASA nurses. They will be boarding respective helicopters soon to be flown about 30 minutes to the northwest from the landing site to the town of Jez-Kazgan, where the NASA Gulfstream jet that had landed several days ago in Karaganda, along with a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft, will be relocated from Karaganda to Jez-Kazgan. Because of the improving weather conditions at the landing site and at the staging cities.
There were some changes. I particular
This is Mission Control Houston. It has been about 29 minutes since the landing of Soyuz MS-06 in a remote landing site to the southeast of the town of Kazakhstan. You're looking at the 3 crew members enjoying some fresh air after 168 days in space. A journey of 71.1 million miles at an end. Alexander Mazurkin, the Soyuz commander, right in the field of view. On the right of your screen, NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei, having completed his first flight into space of 168 days.
Nominal landing, and everything was fine. There was nothing unexpected. There were no malfunctions, and we're very glad to see you. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not interesting. It's, but the nice level there is awesome.
What about the tent?
No, it really wasn't. Was when they were, when the G's got up to about 40, I could actually feel it.
And as you can see, members of the search and recovery forces about to hoist Alexander Mazurkin in his chair. They'll be moved, we believe, to an inflatable medical tent nearby to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable flight clothing and to receive their first medical tests following their return to Earth, which culminated in an on-time, on-target landing at 8:31 p.m. Central Time.
Was the food good? It was excellent.
Вместе с тобой.